This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so I think first thing,
Well,
we
we first need a motion to open the meeting.
yep.
Okay, this is Bill McBride. I make a motion to open this meeting on the 12th of April, 2021.
Seconded.
Okay, Member Searle.
Yes, aye.
Okay, Member Morrow.
Here.
Okay, Member Harrington.
Yes.
Okay, Member Pollock.
Here.
Okay, and Member McBride.
Here.
Okay, motion carries.
Then I understand Lisa's not with us, so probably we don't have an actual chairperson. So a motion to have Bill be acting chair for tonight.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, Member Morrow.
I approve.
Okay, Member Harrington.
Yes.
Member Pollock.
Here. Yes.
Okay, Member McBride.
Can I vote for myself?
Why don't you abstain, Bill? You probably could vote, but just
I
abstain.
abstain. Yeah, I abstain.
Okay, and Member Searle.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Marina, can you tell us why we're doing this virtually, please?
Oh, sure. The Historic Preservation Board is holding their regular meeting of Monday, April 12th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. virtually due to public health and safety concerns related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Village of Pittsford HPB will not be meeting in person accordance with the governor's executive orders. Therefore, the meeting will be held via video conferencing and a transcript will be provided at a later date. The public will have an opportunity to see and hear the meeting live and provide comments via the Village's Facebook page or the Village website.
Okay.
Okay, this is Bill McBride. I'll open this meeting with the first application, which is the pavilion sign at 7 to 10 Cheyenne Place. Do we have an applicant present who would like to talk about what you would like to do?
Yes, my name is Jennifer Collins. I'm the applicant, the owner of 7, 8, 9, 10 Cheyenne Place. Was here a month ago about the pavilion construction. It's up and going. I don't know if anyone has been down on Cheyenne Place in the last week, but things are happening very quickly. We're very excited. And this application is for a sign to identify the pavilion to be placed in the upper space that was designed to situate the sign. It is black matte with, in the second version you have, it has a blue border that is identical to the blue border that is on the existing pavilion that says Village of Pittsford Erie Canal, and then the lettering is white. The dimensions are to fit within that space, and I'm not sure what else you need to know right off the bat.
Okay.
So the sign covers that whole space in width and almost in height.
Yeah.
And there was behind that sign originally, it wasn't open. There was a background. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Board members, the discussions, questions?
I have no comments. It seems perfectly reasonable to me on this new construction.
I've looked at it as well. It's reasonable to me as well.
I just add to that I've never seen a job get done so quickly, so professionally, and come out so well. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you. We still have a ways to go as far as the grading and all of those things. And now we have a couple of rainy days slowing us down a bit, but we're progressing as quickly and as appropriately as we can.
Yeah, and Bill McBride and I have, I'm very comfortable with the sign as it is and very comfortable with the pavilion. Anybody else want to make comment?
No other.
Okay. Then I will, would anybody like to make a motion for approval?
Does anybody
Okay.
else have their form open?
I'm sorry, Jenny, I didn't hear you.
I don't know that either.
I have just opened up the form that Lisa likes us to use. So I'm prepared to make a motion if no one else is ready to do so.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I move that the application for a sign on the pavilion at multiple addresses on Shane Place, they are, I'm sorry, I'm not finding the numbers in front of me. On the new pavilion on Shane Place, Collins Pavilion at Shane Place, at a meeting of HPB on April 12th, 2021. I make a motion that we approve as submitted the application for a sign made by Ms. Collins for the property located on Shane Place. Marina, can you fill in those numbers when you get to it?
Yes, I can.
Okay. The sign appears to conform to the village sign ordinance because we are seeing it, and this is a new structure, and the sign is appropriate to this new structure.
Okay, how do we vote?
Oh, we need a
Do
second.
do we need have a second?
Hold it. Steve Louth has his hand up.
Oh, yes.
I just, not to put a fly, but does it matter which sign she proposed to? Would you prefer the blue bordered one, Jenny, or the white one plain back?
I'm sorry, my application packet only has one sign on it, and it's showing on my screen as a black background. I don't know what color it is.
Blue?
Show us the color again.
I can
What are the
share the
colors?
packet that has them both if you'd like.
Now, what color is the roofing, Ms. Collins?
Well, the only change, Jenny, is a little blue line like the one on the other pavilion. It's the exact same sign, just with a blue border, a thin blue border that
Okay.
matches the other sign on the other pavilion.
Okay, Ms. Collins, what color is the roofing material?
It's a dark gray, almost black, but, and so the background
So the
of the
choice
sign is
the choice is with a blue line around it or no line around it?
correct.
And there's a blue background on a blue line around the sign on the pavilion behind you. Is
Yes,
that correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
How do we feel about that? Do we want to distinguish it from that, or do we want it similar?
I
Comments?
personally have no preference and would be okay with the owner making that decision.
Same here.
Same here.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Jenny, your motion needs to be amended to include
I will
that the
amend-
applicant,
I will amend the motion to indicate that the owner can select either to include the blue border or leave or omit the blue border at her choice.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Second.
How do we vote? Marina, you want to call the vote?
Sure. Member Morrow?
Vote yes.
Okay. Member Harrington?
Yes.
Member Pollock?
Yes.
Member McBride?
Yes.
And Member Searle?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you all
Good.
very much.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much
you.
for your support.
You're welcome.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 44 Lincoln Avenue window replacement. Do we have the applicants present, please?
Here we are. Can you hear us?
Good. Okay. I'm going to structure this so we go through it piece by piece, if we may. It's a fairly complicated issue, a volatile issue. First of all, I'd like to hear from the applicant, and I'd like to know what you want in this, and how also would you please describe the two, you had two inspections done, one by Jim Leibel and the other one by Mr. Jordan. And would you, after you describe what you want, would you describe what those two gentlemen who have expertise in this area had to say?
Sure. So,
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, we want replacement windows. That's what we would like to see. When we first moved in, none of them, we cannot open any of the windows at all in our home. There's many with broken panes, the ropes, the pulleys, and I believe, and I'm quite positive, the windows are original from 1925. So they're in, we'd like replacement ones. So we had two individuals, and as you mentioned, in addition to 3 or 4 at least other companies who came to give us quotes for replacement windows. The first individual, Jim Leibel. Yeah, he provided us with a quote and said the windows would be a better candidate for replacement, and he gave us a quote for building all new windows. And when we got that quote, it was rather pricey. So we said, okay, let's look at other options that we have. And again, as we continue down this journey, we've spoken to a number of people and companies. Steve, the other, Jordan was the other individual we spoke with, and his recommendation was that they could be repaired and fixed up and not replaced. So it was two conflicting messages there. The one thing about Steve was he told me while he was on site with me that he's so busy he wouldn't even be able to begin for 2 years, which is also a factor too, I think, because we spent this winter freezing and not being able to look out our windows due to the condensation, and it's just a mess. So we spent a lot of money on this house buying it and upgrading it as well. And so we can't wait 2 years to start getting windows replaced. And
to get them repaired.
Sorry, to get them repaired. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: the two, did you get a financial estimate from the two as to what they would charge if and when they can do the work?
Well, Jim is to make new windows, and that comes out to be $51,800. And Steve Jordan's was not a quote. It was, and what's the word he used for it? It was a report, if you will. So I tried to get some clarification from him, and although we can email, he's not able to talk on the phone at this point. So he gave us a report that said each window there are 3 options for each window, but I don't know without speaking to him or him coming here, what window needs what and how much each would cost. And his quote also says something about that our storms are in good shape, which I don't agree with that assessment. We have storms in our bedroom that we can't even see out of. And so his is more confusing. I guess he says it's more of a report than a quote. But anywhere from, up to, it looks like maybe even $2,000 a window for 25 windows. 27. Or no, I think it's mostly 25. Up to $2,000 a window. So close to making all new windows. $50,000 before tax. Well, I don't know.
And what was the price of replacing those windows with identical windows, or seemingly identical?
Through Jim Leibel?
Well, yes, with Jim or whoever you got an estimate from.
Well, I also have an estimate from Rochester Colonial that are all wood windows. This is without installation is $29,000, and we feel that we can have them installed for about 10. So we're still spending a large amount of money on these windows. It's just $10,000, $15,000 is a big difference to get a new product versus fixing something that's 100 years old.
And if we're gonna spend $50,000, I want to get what I want to get at a home as well. It's a lot of money, especially when I spent what I did on it and then spent about almost that much more renovating the inside due to the state of the house. So we want to get what we want within reason, obviously.
Okay, let me add to this. We're aware of both of these, Jim Leibel and Mr. Jordan. Both are experienced, credible workmen to perform this function. Both came out slightly different, but both have a great deal of experience and credibility repairing windows like this. Board members, do you have any questions of these folks?
Well, if I could add just one thing before we get into questions, we would like to go with Rochester Colonial, which are wood windows. And I think that the quote is in there in the package.
Yes, it
that
is.
I sent over to Steve. So that's what we would like to do. Wood and wood, it's replacing wood for another wood. And we feel that it would be, there'd be more efficient windows, newer windows that we'd be able to open. Like my husband said, we were cold all summer, all winter, and now we can't open a window to get a breeze.
Yeah, like that nice day we had the other day, cannot open up one window.
There's some that were replaced in the kitchen, but, way before our time. But this is something, there's also the timing aspect of it, because like my husband said, we put a lot of love into this house, but we want to enjoy it. And right now we're not able to with the window situation.
Okay, would you please describe the difference as you understand it, and our building inspector can chime in if he wants to, about the difference between the Rochester Colonial windows that you propose to put in and the windows that exist there now, other than the fact that they're 100 years old.
I'm not a window expert. I know that Jim, I would almost look like perhaps like it does now, Rochester Colonial or still wood. I understand that they've been used at other houses in the village. I can't speak exactly to what the entire difference would be. Like I said, I've learned a lot in this process, but I'm not an expert. Maybe Steve, you could speak to that.
Can our building inspector add anything to that?
Well, the only thing I can add is that the windows are a solid wood replacement window. They have grid patterns that will match the patterns on the existing windows exactly. And that literally, I mean, you will be able to tell if you really are an expert on windows, but for the most part, it's going to be indiscernible from the public way, the difference in the windows. But what it'll do is it'll give them a modern window, tilt in, energy efficient, insulated glass, 25-year warranty. I mean, it's ultimately the board's decision, but you know, having them wait 1 year to 2 years to get what they want, I think the board, you know, I would hope the board would look at that.
Yeah.
Applicant, anything to add to that in terms of what you want and how you feel about the two options?
I guess I would add that we really have contacted all, the replacement, repair. We've done a lot of due diligence. We've tried to do everything by the book. And at the end, when it comes out to timing and finance, we feel much more comfortable with the replacement window, wood for wood. That's how I guess I would look at it.
Okay. All right. The next thing I'd like to do is ask Jenny Searle, who's been around historic preservation for a long time, how this application is affected by our historic preservation code and requirements.
Okay.
Jenny, if you would, please.
Yes, I would like to start with some information about the house itself. It was built in 1925. It has wood siding. Originally, it had asbestos shingles on the roof to resemble slate. It may be a rubber imitation slate right now, but I'm not certain about that. The builder was Pierce Rylott, who was a local individual. His son must also have been a builder with him, because Pierce Rylott worked on the house I live in now, and I remember that. And Pierce Rylott, who did that work, would not have been old enough to build your house, just for information. The National Register nomination for the Pittsford Village Historic District indicates that both the house and the garage are contributing structures in the National Register District. The house is a 2-story craftsman style with jerkin-head roof and generally 8/1 window sash. 8/1 means the upper sash of a double pane window has 8 panes. The lower sash has 1 pane. So I will also paraphrase from our village preservation ordinance and read some from the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. This is from the preservation ordinance. The purpose of the preservation ordinance states, the Village of Pittsford Board of Trustees recognizes the historical and/or architectural significance, antiquity, uniqueness of exterior design or construction should be conserved, protected, and preserved to maintain the architectural character of Pittsford Village. The village is a historic district in the National Register of Historic Places. The purpose of our ordinance is to promote the general welfare by, among other things, providing for the protection, perpetuation, and utilization of buildings within the village that reflect the special elements of the village's historical, architectural, cultural, economic, or aesthetic heritage for the following reasons. Number 1, to foster public knowledge, understanding, and appreciation of the historical and architectural character of the village and in the accomplishments of its past. Number 2, to protect, promote the economic benefits of historic and architectural preservation to the village, its inhabitants, and villages. Number 3, to protect property values in the village. Number 4, to promote and encourage continued private ownership and stewardship of historic buildings within the village. The board's general advisory powers are these. The board shall use the standards set forth in this chapter, the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, the Village of Pittsford Design Guidelines, and or any other locally developed standards for review. To those of you who are unfamiliar with the Secretary of the Interior Standards, the Secretary of the Interior Department and the National Park Service are in charge of all things preservation. We are to evaluate and render a determination upon an application for a certificate of appropriateness, approve with modifications or conditions, or deny such application. Evaluate and render a determination upon an application for a certificate of an economic hardship, approve with modifications or conditions, or deny any such application. As a definition for rehabilitation, and this is all from the code, rehabilitation is the act or process of making possible a compatible use for a property through repair, alterations, and additions while preserving those portions or features of the property which convey its historical, architectural, and cultural values. The criteria that the board is to use for evaluating and issuing a certificate of appropriateness are these. The board shall approve the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness only if it determines that the proposed work shall not have a substantial adverse effect on the aesthetic, historical, or architectural significance and value of the property itself, the district, or neighboring properties in such district. Second, any alteration to any exterior architectural feature of any building or structure in the village and any construction of any building or structure in the village of Pittsford shall be compatible with the properties in the village. And these are the principles applying to compatibility. General design and character of the proposed alteration or construction relative to existing features of the property. The neighborhood context, the visual scale and visual compatibility with the proposed alteration or construction in relation to the property itself. The importance of historic physical and visual features to the significance of the property. Architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. Let's see, then in our, here we go. Sorry, more things.
Let me interrupt. Is there anything specific in that code to windows, historic windows?
Bill, the code itself references the Secretary of the Interior Standards and the Village of Pittsford Historic and Architectural Design District Building Standards. So I'm getting to that. I know that was long, but I think it's important for the applicant to know and understand, and also for our new board member to know and understand what authority we have and how it is granted to us. So this is from the Secretary of the Interior Standards. Standard number 2, the historic property shall be, the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Number 5, distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize the properties shall be preserved. And I will put forward, we're talking about windows in this case. Deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Again, now from the Village of Pittsford's design guidelines, windows are among the most important character-defining features of a historic home. Along with, they add depth to the facade and provide visual interest by reflecting light. Poor maintenance will result in unattractive windows that do not operate smoothly. Accumulated layers of paint, broken sash cords, and chains will cause the sash to bind. These conditions can be easily corrected by either a carpenter or a handy homeowner. Peeling paint, broken glass, and failing putty are unsightly, but also easily fixed. Beware of the tradesman who tells you that your windows can't be repaired. Usually they can. That's not me stating that, although I agree with it. That comes directly out of our design guidelines. Homeowners may be concerned that their historic windows are not as energy efficient as replacement windows. Caulking window openings and installing weather stripping will help stop air infiltration and energy loss. Repairing and installing sash locks will help the meeting rails meet tightly and therefore stop drafts. Interior and exterior storm windows will further reduce energy loss. Despite false marketing claims, historic windows with properly fitted storms have virtually the same thermal efficiency as a new window and will last much longer because of superior quality wood. And that's what our ordinance gives us.
Okay, all right. Anybody have any questions about that, or would you rather wait till we finish? Any specific questions about what Jenny just described?
Is the homeowner aware that we have a copy of the letter that Mr. Jordan sent to you? He also sent it to the village.
And why would he send it to the village? Are you his client or are we his client? That was for me to share with you. It wasn't for him to send to you.
So Jenny, from what we understand is when we initially talked about Jim here, someone on the board didn't like Jim's response that he wouldn't repair and he wanted to do replacements. And then Steve, oh, okay.
Okay, so then.
And then Steve came here and said, it was an interesting conversation. Like, I told the village board, you guys, never to call me again to have me come out and do this. Because basically it's almost like, hey, we got to bring in this guy to give us the replacement speech or the repair speech because they've got these other people saying replacement. It was almost like a hit job in a way. Nice guy, great guy, but I saw the writing on the wall and he's like, look, here's what I'm here for. And that was it. So it seemed a little bit like a setup. Mm-hmm. And that whole wonderful speech that you just gave or reading of whatever historic guidelines you're talking about, that should be read to every single prospective buyer of a freaking house in this village.
Absolutely.
And make them watch this and watch how people don't come here.
Right.
We want to spend money on replacement windows. We're not going to change aesthetically what the windows look like. We're going to do the 8 pane on the top, 1 on the bottom. We want wood for wood. I don't want the windows replaced. Even if I want them repaired, it would take 2 years. And who knows if that is actually going to be the time frame that we're working with.
And it's also another gentleman in central New York who I've reached out to numerous times, who has said, yep, it doesn't get back to me. And I do find, maybe the village attorney can speak to this, I do have a problem with the fact that I'm being told now, I've been told in this process, and I'm told by Steve, I understand your concerns, but it's your home buyer's responsibility to know what living in the Village Preservation District entails. How, as a homeowner, I didn't sign anything. I even spoke to my attorney. He is not aware of it either. How can you have people, I mean, we're not young, we're middle-aged people who are coming in, buying a home that needed a lot of work, and we did it. And it looks really nice. But then just to get, like, with the windows, we had no idea that it would take this. I can show you stuff from September I've been working on it. It's a part-time job. We're trying to do the best for the house.
You guys got you said, go talk to this person, get this quote, that quote. We did everything you asked. And until the time you did not like what was being told to us, then you brought in this hired gun that Ginny referred. That's the way we see it, and it's absolutely ludicrous.
It makes us want to put a for sale sign out, and you can get someone else in the village. Someone who's not involved, who doesn't have their kids here, who doesn't have all their friends up and down the street, who doesn't love living here or walking into town, supporting a local business. You can have someone else.
Okay, before we have any further discussions, I would like to ask our attorney
Bill,
to...
Steve has his hand up.
Oh, okay. All right. Steve?
Yeah, there's just one thing I want to mention. I mean, I understand everything that Ginny read in regard to historical stuff, but also I believe somewhere in the code is if replacement is necessary or warranted, that as close to in kind as possible with materials that were available at the time, and as long as it is indiscernible from the public way, are also part of the code, if I'm not mistaken.
It does not. I read the whole ordinance this afternoon. Nowhere does it say indiscernible from the road. However, the point here is that these are exceptionally high quality windows. I understand they're not working for you right now.
Yeah, maybe in 1930 they were. Not now. This is too. Excuse me?
I didn't hear what you said.
I said maybe in 1930 they were, 1950, but they're not now. There's broken panes, there's broken sashes. I can't open the windows. I would rather have replacements.
And when there's no one to do the work,
you can't get it done.
We are
okay, but before we finish with further discussions, I would like to hear from our attorney that will provide an overall perspective legally on this. Jeff, if you would, please.
So the applicant asked a question about whether or not this ordinance should be binding on them because they didn't sign anything and they didn't know about it. And unfortunately, we've tried to do the best we can to educate the realtors who list houses in our village, and the contractors who come in to do work in our village, that this is a preservation area. And there's a preservation ordinance. When you buy, unfortunately, the law is that when you buy into a preservation village, the knowledge of that is presumed to you, and you are bound by it. And that's unfortunately sometimes a bit of a shock and a surprise. We have made repeated efforts to try to ameliorate that shock and surprise by, as I said, working with the realtors, trying to find out people who buy, trying to send them an opening letter and package that explains some of the to-dos and not to-dos in the village. And it's just not as effective as it could be somehow. But we have tried.
Well, why would a realtor want to expose this fact and just look at this meeting? I'm sure they would absolutely not want to see this happen. They would be like, I'm not
well,
showing
easy.
That, no way.
That's an real easy answer, question to answer. Because an historic preservation area, an ordinance, absolutely increases property values. It preserves what the village looks like and makes people like you want to buy into the village. It is when a village goes up for sale in this village, or I'm sorry, when a property goes up for sale in this village, it's sold in heartbeats, and it's usually sold for more than the listing price. And the sole reason for that, one of the reasons, is the preservation ordinance. And that's why realtors should be happy to disclose to potential purchasers that not only is this a great village, you're getting the benefit of buying into a historic preservation area. So that's the answer about why realtors should disclose it.
Great. So we're not asking to do anything different or change the architectural or the historical look and feel of this home. We are absolutely not. We are asking to get windows that work for us. It's our money. We want to spend it the way we want to, and keep in mind, as we all can agree, that we need to maintain the historic look and feel. That's what we would like. And we've got two now competing.
I understand that.
Let me just finish. We've got two competing experts. One, you guys like their narrative, or someone does in this panel. I don't know about the rest of you, but the one who was talking likes the narrative of the restoration, and the other one she doesn't like. So she went and got the other person to come and do this job, and he told me point blank, I asked them never to contact me again because I always get put in the middle of these situations. He's like, I'm doing it as a favor.
And he did write that to me. He said he doesn't want to be forced to use my services. I respond in this case because a village friend asked me.
Not only that, like why they're sending stuff to you guys when we would be the one paying them is a little bit suspicious. And again,
it doesn't make us
I don't
want
trust it.
to spend $50,000. May I finish, Ginny, please? I don't want to spend $50,000, period. But I certainly don't want to spend $50,000 for someone who is trying to work for me, but is corresponding with the board directly. I don't think that starts on a fair level with me and Steve Jordan.
I would like
Okay,
to
let me throw out one more thing I'd like our attorney to comment on. Two more things. Why?
I wasn't finished. I wasn't finished. I was
Okay, all
answering
right,
their
finish.
question.
Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
So the question, and in response to one of the things you just asked, our ordinance, excuse me, our ordinance says repair rather than replace. That is the presumption. That's where the ordinance starts. And to do something different than that, there has to be a good reason.
Yeah.
Now, for me, the words I'm so sorry. The words I'm focusing on in the ordinance are architectural features need to be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. The question I have is a 2-year waiting period on an if come when you really don't know where the end of the road is going to be, and if there's going to be an end of the road, is that a possible repair? Is it make sense? Is it reasonable to say, well, you can do it, but you can't, you have to wait 2 years to do it. And I believe my gut on this is I can't believe a Supreme Court judge would agree that 2 years is reasonable. Now, if it has nothing to do with price at this point. This is not a hardship hearing. This is what does our ordinance require and what is best for this property. And if everything else was equal and repair is a plausible option, then that would be a reasonable approach for the board to take. Where it might become unreasonable is if you add a layer to that, where the repair cannot happen for 2 years. that adds a different twist that the board really needs to consider very carefully. That's my thoughts.
Okay, anything else you want to add, Jeff?
Nope.
Any,
Unless the applicant has legal questions that I didn't really answer. I tried to.
does
No.
anybody else have any questions for our council?
Jeff Pollock had his hand up. Bill.
Yeah, I'm listening to this and I think this is the waiting time. I've read the letter. I think it's unreasonable. I don't think you can ask somebody to go through and do that. I wouldn't do it.
By the way, let me add that I think it wasn't just from Mr. Jordan. I think the first inspector, Mr. Leibel, had the same issue. He said he couldn't get to it for at least a year. Is that correct, Steve? Is that correct, Steve?
As far as I know, yes. He said he couldn't touch it for at least a year to 18 months.
Yeah.
And I would point out that that's a replacement anyway. Mr. Leibel's windows are a replacement. They're not repair.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a couple of other comments if I can.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Mr. and Mrs. Coons, did you pay Mr. Jordan? Did he ask to be paid by you?
No one who gave us a quote was paid by us, including Mr. Jordan.
Okay.
So he was representing you then if you asked him to come. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh,
The village.
no, he didn't make that. He did not make that clear when we met. He did not come under the guise of saying, I have been brought here by the board. He said I was asked as a favor. He never saw he was under the actual official business of the village of Pittsburgh. I wish I would have known that. Thank you for letting me know.
Well, the board, the ordinance gives the board the right and the opportunity to hire an independent expert to evaluate conditions when the board needs further assistance. And despite what Bill McBride has said about Jim Leibel, he's an excellent craftsman who builds windows and builds cabinets. He's an excellent carpenter. His work is superlative, but he does not repair windows. That's not what he does. He does
Jenny, let me correct this. You know the stone house in the village, the Mason Stone House.
He rebuilt those windows. He built new windows, did he not?
He didn't build new windows. He significantly repaired the existing windows, to my understanding.
Well, I would question him about that. I personally would question him about that. Mr. Jordan has been doing window repair for 50 years, and he has also written a nationally recognized book on window repair. Mr. Jordan wrote you an evaluation report of your windows. Mr. Leibel gave you, I don't know if he gave you a piece of paper, but he said they're not repairable. So in my opinion, Mr. Leibel is not an expert. The board saw nothing to indicate from Mr. Leibel that the windows were unrepairable. What we have received from Mr. Jordan is that they are repairable. And I recognize at this point in time that no one has been identified who can repair your windows. That does not mean that there is no one in the city of Rochester that can do it. On your behalf, on the board's behalf, and on the behalf of all the other preservation boards in the county, I am working very hard to identify more than one person who can do window repairs. And simply because there is no one that you can go to instantaneously to replace your windows, I do not believe that's a legitimate reason to say we can't wait 2 years when you haven't asked anyone to repair your windows who is qualified to repair windows.
Get off. Ginny, I talked to Bob Corby, who called someone in central New York, first name Kurt. I've reached out to him numerous times. He does.
Yes, there were 6 people, Ginny. There were 6 people you recommended.
I called every single one of them.
I have told you, Bill, repeatedly before this meeting and before this application that the names on the list for window repair people, that are none of them are going to repair windows. I'm talking, Mr. and Mrs. Coons, about someone in the Rochester area. I have one person who is currently a possibility, but I cannot give you his name until I verify this. And I also have spoken just today to someone I know who is a residential house builder who has had on his crew fine finished carpenters, and that's the type of individual that you need to be doing the work.
So now you just want to put some, like a random person that you're not familiar with, but you know this guy who wrote this book on Windows, who that's your guy, right? Who you think's amazing. But now you're like, if he's not available, you're just going to go find the next random person that you think can potentially.
No. I'm not looking for the next random person, because the next random person could ruin your great historic windows.
So, this is like, I think you got to go back to the 2-year thing, everyone, respectfully. Think about if I said to you, okay, great. If you guys are willing, you want us to go this route, I'll be happy if every one of you seal up your window for the next 2 years and can't open that. If you want to live in my world for the next 2 years plus, and that's if he can get to it then, if everything goes as planned, if supply chains and whatever, and you get all the tools and necessary equipment, that's great. I think that's completely unreasonable, and it's just completely wrong.
Bill, Steve has his hand up. Bill, Steve has his hand up.
Steve, go ahead.
Two things. Mr. Libo completely rebuilt new sashes for the house on Church Street, the stone house. So he does excellent work, all right? We as a village or as a municipality had him on a list and recommended him to go to these people's house and give an evaluation. We judged him to be worthy and of an expert to go and do this. We had these people gainfully contact him to have him go. He gave an opinion. It is not, I guess, as soon as you put my opinion and everything, it changes the game. We, as an entity, recommended a expert that we picked. He went, gave an opinion. It has to be valued. Period.
And you didn't like the answer. And then you maybe get somebody else, and you kept getting into like this whole thing until you get the answer that you want, that you like. We're going to have to keep going through this process over and over again until Ginny finds someone that works at a construction crew that is a craftsman. It's just going to be this constant thing. I think it's absolutely ludicrous and not fair.
And Steve, if you could back me up on this, I think we started this conversation in September. It's April.
Thank you.
You're talking about 2 years. It's already been 2.5 years that I've been working on this for 6 months, meeting with 7, 8 different people, replacements, repairs, calling people, emailing. So I've already spent 6 months on this project. I don't think it's reasonable to start over again with someone new. I don't. That's my opinion.
Bill, Mark's got his hand up.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Hi. I have a lot of empathy for what you're going through. I had to, in my old country house, there were 52 windows, and it took 4 or 5 years to get that place turned around. And because I wanted to honor all of these different standards that existed. And in the meantime, for several years, the house just wasn't habitable. So maybe my point of view is a little bit directed in that direction by virtue of what my experience was. But I would say, given what is happening in this area, with more people coming into the area, with craftsmen like you're talking about, evaporating, and there are very, very few left. There's going to be a higher demand, in my opinion. I think 2 years is optimistic. I think, at the end of the day, it's going to be somewhere above 2 years, and I wouldn't put a single penny on the notion that it's going to be any earlier than that. And I think you've got a very good point. That's just my personal opinion.
Mr. Morrow?
Okay, I'd like to go over what I think are some of the financial things I've pulled out of the reports and my experience at my house, which is pretty extensive.
Okay, Ken, I'm not sure that we're talking about the financial element now as much as we are the time element, right? Am I correct?
About the time element, it's part of this. So, and I think the financial element's always a consideration. There's one quote for $51,800. That's pretty high. The quote from Steve, if you were to take his highest number, 1,400 a window times 26 windows, is 36,400. The quote from the people that want to put in the, what would you call them? New storm window, new, universal windows is 39,000. So, you got three pretty high, 29,000 plus 10 to install at 39,000. Now, in my house, I had 100 windows, and a lot of them you couldn't open the top window, and in some of them you couldn't open the bottom window. They were painted shut. So I had a guy, and he was like a carpenter, okay? Wasn't like the world's finest craft carpenter. I mean, he was a good carpenter. And he was doing other work for me. And we talked about the windows. So for $100 a window, he freed the windows from the paint, put on new ropes and connected them to the counterweights, and put in a new wood board between the front and the back sash. And that was for $100 a window. So on 44 Lincoln, which is probably, my house is 100 years old, that would be $2,600, but that was in 1999. So if we multiply that by 1.5, you're up to 3,900. And I would think that for you guys, 3,900 would be less than, say, 39,000. And I think if you got a carpenter like Jenny's talking about, and you're not going to know every carpenter in the world when you're on a construction project. You have to evaluate them, have them come in, do the job, and get it done like this year.
Really?
Well, okay, that's all very theoretical.
Sorry,
it's not theoretical at all.
That does. I mean, come on. I appreciate what you're trying to say, but I think that, and you're multiplying figure of 1.5. That is just even the amount.
Yeah, right.
The other thing about
multiply it by 2, it's 5,200.
It doesn't matter what you multiply it by. Those people don't exist.
Yeah, that's.
Furthermore, the mention you said the full cost for the repairs, or whatever, 27,000 or 36,000. That doesn't include storms and screens and things like that.
That's an extra
$600 per window. So again, you got to look at everything.
Well, you have storms and screens now, right?
To restore the windows is over $50,000, and if he can get it in 2 years. And this individual you're talking about, who may be able to come in here and scrape some putty and scrape some paint and put some.
I think the problem is bigger than that.
And then they're going to potentially do more damage.
Okay, let me just pull this together a little bit. We had 2 very respected, accomplished proven repairman come in and look at this, okay? Their big issue, I thought we left cost a little bit. I think the big issue is the time that it's going to take to get this done, which is close to 2 years before it can get started. Isn't that the focus of the issue?
I think that's the focus if you go this other way, which, you know, I think is overkill, frankly.
What do you mean this other way? What do you mean?
Like to spend 51,000 or 39,000, you know, and whatever, 34,000, and I think they made a proposal about getting a decent carpenter in there and fixing the windows the way they ought to be fixed. You probably get another 100 years out of them.
What do you think, Jenny? We got a decent carpenter in there and have him do it?
Yes, Mr. Jordan's letter estimated the costs vary by condition to just repair the windows, not to restore the windows, to a like new condition, just to make repairs. Estimated costs $75 to $150 per window, and to upgrade with weather stripping on the bottom sash at $155. So $305 for a repair to each window, current cost. And let me tell you what.
We don't have any screens on any window in the house. They were not left here.
Bill, Steve has his hand up again. I'm sorry.
Okay, Steve, go ahead.
All right, two things to that. Yes, he offered a repair option, but to leave the top sash painted shut, that to me is I guess I don't understand why you would even go there. These people want windows that work top and bottom. They have the right to have a restored window that operates like new in a house that they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for. And just as let me finish speaking, please. All right, the other thing is I called and had a company estimate, because we talked about the storm windows on this house. They don't have storm windows. You suggested, Jenny, that they could get a wood storm window that would have a movable sash so they wouldn't have to replace and take them off, get on a ladder, do all that. $9,000 to put storm windows on that house, wood storm windows. That would be what they have today. $9,000. Add that to their $36,000 for the windows, so you're up into almost $50,000 to have the windows restored to original nice condition with new storm windows. That's the truth.
The focus of this thing is not the money. We're not at a hardship hearing.
Yeah.
The focus is whether or not a repair is reasonably possible. That's the focus, as I see it.
And by reasonably, you're talking about timetable, right? Timeline, right?
Certainly not money. I'm just talking about, whether or not these people can get their windows repaired.
Is it reasonable to wait 2 years to get this started on?
Let me just say that I know how to use a box cutter and break the seal between two windows, a window sash and the channels that are painted shut. I'm a 70-year-old woman and I can do that.
I'm sorry, what are you insinuating? I don't understand what that means.
I'm insinuating that it's for you to say that you can't open your windows.
Yeah.
We can't. You know, some of them, the glass has been replaced, so the pulley systems don't even work. You open the window, and Steve spoke to that too. You open the window in my daughter's room, you could cut your arm off how fast it comes back down. Because the glass that has been replaced is the wrong weight for the window.
Yes,
it's not as easy. It's not
the wrong weight. I'm not disputing that. I'm saying you're overblowing the difficulty of the repairs.
Jenny, you don't live here. You have no idea what you're talking about, because you have a home where you can take.
I lived in the house next door to yours for 20 years, and that's where I learned how to open the windows, because they were painted
Well,
shut.
maybe when you lived here, when it was 20 years ago, it was fine, but they don't work now. Sorry, they don't work now. Sorry. And we don't have, listen, we're not empty nesters. I have kids who are in high school, and I'm not going through 2 or 3 years and not be able to open a window when they're in high school. It's absolutely, it's just unreasonable to think that we can't go out and get something that is going to look historically similar, wood for wood replacement, and even have to go through this process.
Bill, I think you should call a vote.
What's that?
I think you should call this. I think you
Okay,
should call
yeah,
a vote.
all right, let's do. I agree. Okay, the issue is, let's bottom line it. The issue is it reasonable to require the applicant to repair these windows rather than replace them? Okay. So I make a motion that the applicant would like to replace these windows with like materials, like design, as an alternative to replacing or alternative to repairing these windows. How do we vote?
So
do I have a?
Hold on,
be
we need,
clear what yes and no means here.
What's that?
Are you Bill, are you
I'd like to be
suggesting
clear
that
on
the
what yes
application
and no
be
means.
presented?
Yes means if you vote yes, that means they replace these windows with like materials, like design. No
Like
means
or
they
something
do
like
not.
that.
Okay. Do I have a?
Wait.
hold on.
Hold on.
There's-
This means.
this is the attorney. Can I talk for a minute?
Yep.
There are two estimates that the applicant has proposed. One from, was it Rochester Colonial?
Yeah.
And the other from an outfit down in Penn Yan. Is that correct?
Applicant?
I think the quote from Marvin, although it was a quote, I think that I gave it because I was being asked of the sizes of the windows.
So your
Right.
preference, your application is for the first, the Rochester Colonial.
Yeah.
Okay. So that, I was just clarifying that.
let me
for the motion.
let me make sure I understand. That's the one in your application where it is the exact same materials, exact same style as the existing windows, except they are double glazed, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
They're brand new windows, right?
Excuse me, there's nothing in the Rochester Colonial quote that I have read that indicates they're going to be the same size windows. There's a one page.
Applicant?
There's one page. There's
It
one
is-
page with
it's
text
the
and
same
terms and conditions.
You can make the stipulation in the motion that the grill patterns have to be exactly the same as the existing windows.
I thought that was okay. Yes. All right. I'm, and that is the Marvin windows. Is that correct?
No, Rochester Colonial.
Rochester Colonial. Okay. All right. Okay. So I make a motion that the existing
Bill,
windows
Bill, let
throughout
me
the
stop-
house.
Bill, hey, Bill, let me stop you for a minute.
Yeah.
If your motion is going to be that the board grant the application as presented for Rochester Colonial with a condition that the windows match what's there, both by way of muntins and openings, then that's should be the motion rather than trying to confuse it with, so nobody knows exactly what it is that you're voting for.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, all right, okay. I make a motion that the windows be replaced by Rochester Colonial, which have proposed the exact same muntins, the exact same style, all wood windows. The only difference from the existing windows is the double glazing. Is that correct? Does that satisfy it, Jeff?
Except that the muntins are going to be exterior.
Usually interior. I would think.
Muted, Jeff.
No, they're not on the interior. If they're on the interior, you do not get the same appearance. You're
No,
not going to get the same appearance anyway.
These windows have exterior and interior muntings to match the original configuration.
Totally
They
different.
look-
Okay.
They look like true divided lights.
Okay.
That's what I thought, yes.
Okay.
Okay?
That's not, excuse me, that's not what it says, but okay.
Okay?
Seconded.
So I make a motion as proposed. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
That was
Okay.
Mark
How-
Harrington. For the record, that was Mark Harrington.
Yep, I got it.
If this is the
And how do
motion,
we vote?
Excuse me. Excuse me, if this is the motion, included in that motion, in my opinion, should be that these windows will be salvaged and taken to one of the architectural salvage locations in the city of Rochester so they don't go to a landfill.
Good.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's fine. Let's add that to the motion. I agree with that.
I'm sorry.
At what cost?
You're gonna make me do what?
Who's gonna pay for that?
Is the village gonna pay for that?
Yeah.
No, you're gonna,
Which show me,
I gotta pay to donate something? I don't understand.
I don't think that there's going to be any cost with that, right?
there's a huge cost to that. You have to make sure that you don't break it when you're taking it
There's
out.
lead paint on it, there's stuff, there's a lot of
Paint on them.
stuff.
We're gonna have to pay for lead abatement. We have to pay for the transportation of them. I don't think that was part of this agreement at all. That's just sprung on us. That is not. And Jimmy,
Rochester Colonial will remove them. When
Well,
they
I mean,
put in the
that's
new
right.
windows.
They would.
And they will either take them to the dump or they will take them to an architectural salvage store.
And no difference in cost.
Well,
I'm not
maybe
saying that.
that could be, hold on. I have a suggestion. Maybe that could be a condition of the motion that there will be no cost to the applicant for that to happen.
Yes.
Okay. So adding to the motion as it's proposed, Rochester Colonial will remove the windows and take those to, who do you want them taken to, Jenny?
Architectural salvage store.
Restore.
There are three different ones in
An
the city.
architectural salvage store,
Yeah.
and this will be done at no cost to the applicant, paid for and covered by Rochester Colonial.
Well, you're dictating Rochester Colonial cover it. They may not.
Yeah.
The important thing is there will be no cost to the applicant.
Yep. Okay. That no cost to the applicant.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else to add to the motion? All right. Do I have a second for the motion?
Seconded.
10 seconds it already.
Okay.
Okay. And Marina, you want to call vote?
Sure. Member Morrow?
Okay, so what are we voting on? It's been a long conversation.
The proposal is we
Colonial do
laid
it.
out. Rochester Colonial will
The
replace the
motion is to
windows.
allow replacement windows by Rochester Colonial.
I
Yep.
vote no.
Okay,
Okay.
Karina?
Member Harrington?
Yes.
Okay. Member Pollock?
Yes.
Okay. Member Searle?
No.
Okay. And Member McBride?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries.
Okay. Whoa.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so be it. I think this is going to take some time to write up this findings of facts. So we're not going to have a findings of facts by the end of today.
Well,
Ginny, you want to join me in writing this up?
absolutely not. I will not write findings of fact for this. I do not support this application in any way, shape, or form. So
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
okay, all right.
you have
Okay.
you have to come up with some reason, some rationale that what you've just
I
approved.
think we just heard the rationale tonight.
I understand that.
We
I
got,
think we
no,
heard it.
fine.
This is unreasonable
I'm-
to ask those people to do that.
we'll
Period.
work on findings. That's okay.
Yep,
That's
yep.
fine.
Yep. Okay. All right. The last application is 36 East Jefferson window replacement. Do we have the applicant here?
Hi.
Is the applicant still with us?
My name,
Yes.
can you hear me? My name is Mike Grosvenor. I represent the applicant. I am the general manager of Renewal by Andersen Windows and Doors. And as a courtesy to our customer, she has asked us to attend this meeting and answer questions on her behalf.
Sure. Okay. Mike, you want to describe what you'd like to do on this property?
Well, I can describe what the homeowner would like us to do.
Okay.
There are several windows on the property that they're asking us to replace. And I have appeared in front of you folks before, many years ago. And we do not sell and market in our division of the Andersen Window Company a wood replacement window. We have a composite replacement window that has been designed and engineered to replicate the appearance and the performance of a wood window. Now, we're part of the Andersen Window Company that is a very well-known, nationally recognized window company. And our division, Renewal by Andersen, is the largest and fastest growing division of the company due to the composite material that we use in this division. We have been approved by many historical preservation boards across Western New York and hundreds across the United States because we're a national organization. I have a great amount of respect for what all of you do in Pittsford, and you're an asset to the community because of what you do. However, we've been denied in the past by your board in Pittsford with this composite window. So we typically avoid taking requests from customers to quote them windows because we inform them that our windows have not been approved in the past. This customer was particularly persistent that we try again, and as a courtesy to her, we said we would. Having just listened to the last hour of discussion with your other community resident, I'm not so certain you guys are prepared to move in this direction. So with that said, I'll be happy to answer whatever questions you may have that could help this homeowner, Mrs. Giles.
Okay. A few questions for you. You've got, you're in a historic district. These are original windows on this house to everybody's understanding, is that correct?
It is, to my understanding, they are original windows. By their appearance and by their dated look, they appear original to the property.
But you're also proposing that the material, these are wood windows that exist there now, and you're proposing
Yes.
two things. One, they be replaced by a composite window, and secondly, you're changing the style of these. You're proposing to change the style of these windows. Is that correct?
The homeowner has requested a change of style on three window openings. That is correct.
Which window openings, please?
So at the front facing of the home to the street, there is a picture window with two side windows, 3 windows and 1 opening. That is, as you face the home, you would see that to the right side of the home. And then on the left side of the home, there are 2 double hung windows that are mulled together. And they, both of those window openings, they're requesting a window change. They have requested that gliding windows be used in those locations.
And in both cases, they are highly visible from a public way. Is that correct?
And those 2 windows would be the visible windows from the public way. Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah.
What is the reason for gliding windows rather than double hungs?
It is a preference of the homeowner. We tried to inform her that that would likely not meet your board's approval, but it was a desire on the part of the homeowner as to her wishing to have that design in her home as opposed to what she has now.
And then would you tell me again what for window number 1, which is the one to the right of the front door?
So to the right, as you face the home, to the right of the front door, that would be, as requested by the homeowner, what we call a triple gliding unit.
Okay.
The center unit would be a fixed window, and the 2 side panels would glide inward over the top of that fixed panel.
So she wants all gliding windows on the front.
That's what she desires, yes.
Okay.
And
She
there
also
are
has-
no gliding windows anywhere on the house now. Is that correct?
I do believe there is 1 gliding window on the back of the home. That is not original to the home. It has been replaced. It is a vinyl plastic window. I cannot say for certain how long ago it was put in, but it appears to be in the 15-year-old range based on my experience. The home has also been resided with vinyl plastic siding as well, and I'm surprised that that would meet the Historical Preservation Board in-kind requirement.
Yeah. Right.
Excuse me, I read the blue form for this property. What's underneath there are asbestos shingles, probably 10 or 11-inch reveal asbestos shingles. So putting vinyl siding on is a way to encapsulate the asbestos rather than remove it and abate it.
Mhm.
This house is a very traditional Cape Cod form. And it is.
No, that makes sense, and I have great respect for what you as board members.
Oh, the.
Okay, Benny,
I have a
anybody?
question. Jeff Turner has a question.
Yeah.
And a comment. The first comment is I'm not certain that we would find an approval for that vinyl siding. I just don't know.
Oh, no.
Today,
I don't think we would either, but I don't.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know when
But
the siding went on.
anyway.
Okay,
why
that's
are the
irrelevant
windows-
to the issue.
Why are the windows being replaced? What's wrong with the current windows?
Well, there's extreme rot on several of them. I'm not.
I'm not surprised about that. A lot of times when vinyl siding goes on and they put aluminum cladding on the windows the window trim and frames, moisture gets in there and there's no way to monitor what's going on underneath it.
Which window units contain that extreme rot. But I do know that although I did not personally visit the home, I've seen some photographs and it's some of the most extreme.
And are you
I'm
going
sorry,
to repair
I
that
could
rot?
not hear you.
Are you going to repair that rot when you do the replacement?
Mike, you might have to repeat what you just said.
Yeah, that rot would be removed. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
Well,
okay. The rot would be removed as part of the removal process before putting in the new window.
Yeah.
The rot is part of the sash of the current windows and going into the frame as well.
Okay. Well, on this particular house, I would not object to the renewal by Andersen replacement windows if they were double hung. This house was built in 1953, and it's fairly common with post-war properties that the windows, number one, the wood that they were made from was not as high quality as old growth wood. So on this particular house, I wouldn't mind a replacement, however, particularly because of the very traditional Cape Cod form. But I'm gonna just caution you on if you do any replacement at all, whether we suggest she reconsider double hung or if the board chooses to approve the sliding windows. I think that you should be very cautious about the asbestos siding underneath there.
Of course.
And this is, she may not know it's under there, and I want to be sure that you as the contractor are aware, at least that it's been reported, that that's what the siding is. So you might need to take a sample and get it tested for asbestos before you get into the project.
Right.
So yeah, Jenny, let me understand what you're proposing. You don't mind the material of the windows, but you would object to changing the style of the windows. Is that correct?
Yes, because Cape Cod style houses traditionally have double hung windows.
Yeah, I would agree. The other request that the homeowner had, and whether this has been presented in any of the notes to you or not, I'm not sure. It currently has horizontal grills. You would perhaps refer to them as mullions. The homeowner has requested that they be removed from the window glass. The window have no grill pattern at all. There's a Cape Cod style house right next door to them that is very similar in appearance and style, and they do not have grills in their windows, but they would like to remove the horizontal appearance in those glass panes and have them just be clear glass through the entire window opening.
So am I looking at this? I'm looking at the photograph of the front of the house.
Yes.
Are they like 2/2 with the grill being horizontal? Is that what you're telling me? That's very bizarre.
Yeah, that was a design that we do occasionally see from homes that were built in the 1950s, and it is, and I can count on one hand in my 20 years of doing this how many times homeowners have wanted to repeat that design. It was a design that was out for a few years of home building, and we just don't see it anymore.
Yeah. I wouldn't object to that if they're double hung windows, if they were 1/1.
Okay. So is it are you speaking for the entire board when you say that you would want to go?
I'm speaking for myself only.
Okay.
I agree now.
my own point of view is that as long as the style of the window is retained in terms of double hung, I would accept a change in material. How about anybody else?
I've already given my opinion.
Okay. Mark, Ken, Jeff,
Good.
any opinions on
I
this?
think that's very reasonable, Bill, what you suggested.
Okay. Jeff Pollock?
I'm good.
Okay, you would go with that?
Yep.
And Ken? Ken?
You're muted, Ken.
I don't have any comment.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, Jenny, you want to make a proposal on this?
Well, no, because what's proposed is a window that she's not asking. What she's proposing is not the window we're discussing. So I would suggest that we table the application until the representative from, Renewal by Anderson can have a conversation with his client.
You want to? Okay, all right, that makes
Okay,
sense.
so,
Okay.
so
I
if
make the motion
the,
to table the application and Mike, is that you, Mike Grosvenor?
yes, it is.
Okay. If
And
you want
come back to us.
back to your client that no one objects necessarily to replacing the windows, given the age of the house and the age of the windows and the condition of the windows since they are rotting. But that the sliding windows is not something the board is willing to consider at this point.
Okay. The question, I accept that, and I think it makes sense. I just have a question about the current gliding window that is in that home. Would that have been something that may have been done without board approval?
That is
Well,
in the where?
it's in the back of the house.
It is in the back
yes.
of the house, yes.
Yes, it might have been done without board approval.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not visible from a public way in any way?
I don't believe it is.
Yeah, it's probably done without board approval.
Okay, I will get with the homeowner. I will make them aware of what you've all determined. And if the homeowner would like to stay with an in-kind approach with double hungs, we'll reach back out to the board for hopefully a final approval.
Good, okay. All right. So it's tabled till you come back to us.
Okay, is there any other question from any other board member?
I have none.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so
Make a motion to that effect and vote on it? To table it?
do we need a motion to table that?
Not really. It's, if we don't vote on it, it's not denied, it's not approved, it's tabled.
Yeah, no, we just tabled it till, yeah.
All right, I mean, we could, but I
Yeah.
don't really see the legal effect of that.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we have minutes from last meeting, is that right?
Yes.
To review?
Minutes from March 8th, yes. Did anyone see any changes that they would like on those minutes?
I do not.
I did not.
Same here.
Great, so we just need a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve. I'll second that, Bill McBride. How do we vote?
Okay, Member Morrow,
Yes.
Member Harrington,
Yes.
Yes.
Member Pollock,
Yes.
Member McBride,
Yes.
and Member Searle.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay. Well, The first and last were pretty easy. 44 Lincoln was, as we anticipated, very difficult.
I think
Okay.
44 Lincoln was a blow to Pittsford historical preservation.
I do too. I think this is a precedent-setting decision that you folks made tonight. I don't think
Okay.
we'll have a leg to stand on with any window replacement in any age home from now on. I think you shot yourself in the foot, big time.
Well, it's a lot to ask people to wait for 2 years to get their house repaired.
He doesn't have to wait for 2
And
years.
it becomes
Bill.
pretty unreasonable.
He does not have to wait for 2 years. There are other options, and they are too young and too impatient and
What were the
totally
options that were on the table,
disinterested.
Jenny? What were the options that were on the table?
There are other people who can be found.
We had your 6 people that you recommended to us. 4 of those said no, right? One of them said yes.
I told you months ago that the
Huh?
people on the list are not people who can be asked to repair windows. This is not the first time. This is probably the 3rd time I've said that. We have to find someone, and it will be a job to find someone, but to simply allow those wonderful windows that are in good condition, that's bullshit, that they can't figure out how to repair their windows, that they couldn't
Well, they
open their
didn't
windows.
want
I
to
don't
figure
believe
out.
that.
All right, I've heard enough. Come on,
All right.
bye. Night, folks.
Wait, we need a motion to close.
No, Bill's already left.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Member Searle,
See ya.
Morrow,
Yes?
Member Pollock,
Yes.
and Member Harrington.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
See you guys.
Good night, all.
Okay, good night.